Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure and thank you for the invitation from the Public Committee Against Torture in Israel to say a few words at this important event. The prohibition against torture is unambiguous. It is prohibited in peacetime, wartime, occupation, and during all other public emergencies. No state can ever justify the use of torture. No derogation is permissible. Today, 174 states have signed on to the Convention Against Torture, making it one of the most widely ratified human rights conventions, including being party are Israel and the State of Palestine. All states are also party to the Geneva Conventions, which also prohibit torture and other outrages upon human dignity explicitly. When torture is perpetrated, the effects are deep and broad. The harm affects the victim profoundly. That harm can be mental or physical or both. At times, it can cause sexual and reproductive trauma. And also for many, it can result in socioeconomic consequences, such as loss of livelihoods caused by social isolation and rejection. The impact on family members and community cannot be underestimated, and they too may suffer the effects of torture. Torture also causes long-lasting fractures in society and between societies. It can stand in the way of peace, justice, and coexistence. And this is why it is absolutely prohibited. No good is served by torture, only evil. Today, I congratulate you on the translation into Hebrew of the revised version of the Istanbul Protocol on the investigation and documentation of torture. Being able to read and share widely the protocol in operational languages is key to ensuring that it is used, understood, and applied. The Istanbul Protocol is a practical manual to help authorities, lawyers, judges, state and private medico-legal experts, and psychologists investigate and document torture and other ill treatment. This United Nations manual provides state-of-the-art information and methodologies for recording, interviewing, and assessing allegations of torture. The manual has also been useful to psychologists and others working to support the rehabilitation of survivors. Investigating crimes of torture is not comparable with investigating ordinary common crimes. In particular, torture is first and foremost a crime committed or enabled by public officials. And regrettably, it is also too often part of unlawful government and/or military strategies. In making a complaint, an accuser is raising an allegation against the same authorities as those responsible for protecting the rights of all individuals under their jurisdiction, especially those deprived of their liberty. This power asymmetry places the victim in a situation of particular vulnerability. Victims may, for example, still be in the custody or under the control of the very authorities against whom they are making allegations. Authorities handling such complaints may lack impartiality or be under pressure to cover up allegations or to destroy evidence. The risk of retaliatory violence against the victim and/or their family or representatives, including the possibility of being disappeared, are real in many contexts. The stakes can be very high. This is why prompt, impartial, thorough, and transparent investigations are required as a matter of international law. Such investigations must be at arm's length and independent. Many countries have established medico-legal or forensic services to support these investigations. Training of these independent investigators and others working within the judicial system is essential. Ladies and gentlemen, fully endorsing the Istanbul Protocol, including through legislation as well as through translation, are prerequisites to ensuring the protocol is entrenched international practice and that documentation generated by it can be relied upon. The 2022 updated version of the Istanbul Protocol sets out the purposes for effective investigations and documentation of torture and other ill treatment, namely by, first, clarifying facts and establishing responsibility. 2, identifying measures needed to prevent recurrence. 3, facilitating the prosecution or, as appropriate, disciplinary sanctions for those indicated by an investigation as being responsible. And 4th, supporting the assessment of what medical care and rehabilitation is required for the victim survivor. Initially adopted in 1999, the latest version was developed by 180 experts and participants in law, health, and human rights from 51 countries. I was pleased to have been on the advisory board of the protocol revision. The Istanbul Protocol is the primary reference tool and standard that legal and medical professionals use for this delicate work. Evaluations pursuant to the Istanbul Protocol should be admitted into proceedings, whether they are carried out by private or state medico-legal practitioners. I want to highlight one particular new aspect of the revised Istanbul Protocol, and that is a section on assessing, interviewing, and documenting sexual torture, which I also relied upon in my latest General Assembly report on the same subject presented this October in New York. I would encourage you to read my report and the Istanbul Protocol together. Ladies and gentlemen, as the introduction to the Istanbul Protocol notes, and I quote, documentation brings evidence of torture and ill treatment to light so that perpetrators may be held accountable, their actions and interests of justice may be served. It also provides victims and survivors with acknowledgement of their pain and suffering. And the documentation produced by medical legal practitioners should help ensure a proper and tailor-made plan can be drawn up for their treatment and rehabilitation. The investigation and documentation process can be a frightening journey for victims and survivors, and it may re-traumatize them. But that process can be healing and rehabilitative if it is done right. The victim and survivor-centered approach of the Istanbul Protocol is the best way to help victims and survivors as they travel on the arduous journey of putting their lives back together. Let me conclude by recognizing the grim reality of world affairs, and especially on your region in the Middle East, where violations are taking place wantonly and recklessly, and too many people are suffering torture and other outrages upon their human dignity. No one should ever be subjected to torture. I congratulate you once again for the launch of the Hebrew version of the Istanbul Protocol. It is timely, will help hold authorities and perpetrators to account, and will hopefully elevate the standards of judicial proceedings as well as rehabilitative care. I wish you all the best with the remainder of your deliberations today. Thank you.